Thank you. I'd like to begin with an introduction. Thomas Atkins, where is Thomas? Newly joining us. Stand up, please, Thomas. You'll be joining the ABOR Government Affairs team with significant experience in the legislature and government affairs. Welcome to our team. Appreciate it. And President Robbins, thank you for your team for putting together today's meeting and hosting us. Greatly appreciate all that goes into that. So our first order of business is call to the audience, as I suspect you know. If you have any materials for the Regents, please give them to our board secretary, Suzanne Templin. Suzanne is over here. She's sitting to my left, and she will distribute them to all the members of the board. Pursuant to board policy, time has been set aside, as it is at every meeting, for a call to the audience. While the board reserves the right to limit the number of presenters on any one topic, I intend to let this run as long as needed to assure that every voice is heard. As a public board, it is important that we hear all stories, all opinions, and all input. The call to the audience is not a place for threatening comments. It's an opportunity for individuals to address the entire board in a public setting, to express their views and concerns regarding board governance. Regents, typically we do not respond to comments made during call to the audience. However, we do hear your remarks, and we may ask the appropriate person to follow up and provide us with information on any issues that you, the speakers, raise. When you are called to speak, please proceed to the lectern. To keep us on schedule, each speaker has a 3-minute time cap. As a courtesy to each speaker, Suzanne, who is now sitting in front of me, will hold up a sign signaling how much time the speaker has remaining. At the end of the 3 minutes, we ask that you conclude your remarks. I will gently then enforce the time rules, not so much to cut people off, but simply because we want to allow every voice their time to be heard. University staff is here to ensure that this meeting remains safe and no one here at the table or among the audience has any kind of personal risk or harm. With that, Suzanne, let's begin. Would you please call our first member of the audience?
Thank you, Chair Duval. Our first speaker is Kiaheron, followed by John LaGuardia.
Good afternoon. My name is Kiaheron, and I'm a retired U of A employee. Thank you for taking public comments, including mine. I read an article about letters sent to you by the Goldwater Institute outlining specific training that were being required by Arizona State University employees that appear to be a major violation of statutory prohibition on mandatory DEI and taxpayer-funded DEI in the state and state agencies. DEI stands for discrimination, exclusion, and indoctrination. Please also address CRT, communist racist training, and ESG, environmental social grift. These are Marxist ploys to pit us against each other. We don't pay attention to the globalist communists who want to bankrupt our country to force the one world order, not on our watch. I commend the board that helped to put an end on requiring diversity pledges of new hires at ASU. And my hope is that the board will address additional policies that will protect students and staff against unlawful racial discrimination, including condemning professors and students that support the terrorist Hamas. This type of bigotry, hate, and racism has no place at this university in Arizona or America. Thank you.
Our next speaker, John LaGuardia, followed by Tessa Fisher.
Regent Duval, President Robbins, and members of the Arizona Board of Regents, and of course attendees, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. My name is John LaGuardia, and I am a career track lecturer in the writing program at the University of Arizona. I'm here representing approximately 80 instructors in our cohort who are directly responsible for preparing our students for academic and professional success to request a wage increase to correct the deficit between our pay and the national median. Lecturers in the writing program teach more than 8,000 students a year, including the vast majority of incoming first-year students. Each of us teaches 200 or more student writers and contributes to the administrative functioning of our program. We teach academic writing skills such as argumentation and persuasion, analysis, research, and synthesis, as well as critical thinking skills that transfer into virtually every university discipline. As we teach these necessary skills, we also interact with our students on a personal basis, directly contributing to their success and retention by establishing a positive and encouraging tone for their academic experience here. We directly generate $9.4 million of revenue each year through the student credit hours associated with our classes, and we indirectly generate more by providing the skills and motivation students need to continue into future classes and future years. Unfortunately, the dignity we bring to our roles and the value we bring to our university are not reflected in our wage. As a fellow member of the English department and fellow union member mentioned in the last ABOR session in Tucson, our wages have stagnated at a base rate of $44,000 since 2018. Data from the American Association of University Professors and from our own research show unfavorable comparisons with the majority of our peer institutions, many of which pay their instructors $50,000 to $60,000 per year with a lower number of classes and a lower number of students per class. We've heard the writing program described as a cash cow, a phrase you may have heard as well. The fact is we make a lot of money for our university. And yet, with inflation and the surge in property rates and rental rates in Tucson, writing program lecturers are struggling to make ends meet. New hires who relocated themselves and their families here quickly discovered that they couldn't survive in Tucson, even at their full-time salaries. Many of us have taken on second or third jobs, teaching courses at other institutions or in other departments at U of A at lower adjunct rate of pay. Our extra jobs are not taken for luxury or leisure, but to make up the disparity between our full-time wage and the cost of rent, food, healthcare, childcare, and other necessities. We are used to performing above expectations, and we have been working in good faith to keep things going according to best practices in education and in our specific field. But financial insecurities, repeated threats of layoffs, and the rolling back of multi-year contracts have made unwavering focus on student success increasingly difficult. Like members of the Board of Regents, however, we are committed to building a better university. We believe in the mission to provide the highest quality education to our students. We believe in the vision of a university that thrives intellectually, culturally, and financially. As we move forward, we want to be a part of that mission, not its victims or sacrifices. So as you consider strategies to rebuild our cash on hand, we ask you to remember that our working conditions are our students' learning conditions. An investment in us is an investment in them. One last sentence here. So with this in mind, we request a wage increase for the lecturers in the writing program. Thank you.
Tessa Fisher, followed by Edie Baron.
Hello, my name is Dr. Tessa Fisher. I'm a postdoctoral researcher here with the Stewart Observatory at University of Arizona. As a postdoc, I am one of only 2% of the US population that has a PhD, in my case in geological sciences. Yet, despite this, I am only making enough to live barely above paycheck to paycheck, especially since my wife recently started experiencing health difficulties and had to take medical leave from her position. I would like to say that I find it inexcusable for the U of A administration to have mismanaged $240 million when some of its most highly trained and credentialed employees are living on such tight margins, and not only that, are now facing the threat of further cuts while those responsible receive little accountability. Thank you.
Edie Baron, followed by Holly Thomas.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Edie Baron, and I'm a sophomore here at the University of Arizona studying public policy and sociology and currently serving as the student body executive vice president. In my role, I oversee 500 plus clubs on campus, the Student Body Senate, and the Club Appropriations Board, which this year was charged with dispersing $200,000 worth of funding. I do this all while being a first-generation student and holding a part-time job so that I can pay my rent and other necessary expenses. I come here today as one of the many students who deeply rely on financial aid to help pay for my college. When President Robbins announced the university's financial crisis and the ways he's looking to recover from it, I was riddled with fear and anxiety. Not only for myself, but for future students who didn't grow up in a wealthy family who could afford to pay for their college education. When the thought of less opportunities for a scholarship crosses my mind, I think of my little sister, my younger cousins, and the opportunity of obtaining higher education that will be ripped from them simply because they cannot afford it. Yesterday, when student leadership met with Chair Duvall and Director Arnold to discuss the financial crisis, they were adamant that this was not a financial crisis. But when there is a fast approaching deadline and students and faculty and staff seem to be the first on the chopping block, it's hard to not see it as one. To say I am frustrated at the lack of management and accountability is an understatement. Low-income students shouldn't have to pay for a miscalculation of $240 million shortfall that happened under President Robin and Lisa Roney's watch. Students are sick and tired of constantly footing the bill for this university and getting the short end of the stick time and time again. I implore the board to hold those accountable who are responsible for the position we find ourselves in today and get to the bottom of what got us here, what this university prioritizing, and what it clearly isn't. This is on you, President Robbins. Students shouldn't be burdened by having to bail out an administration that treats this institution of higher education like a business by prioritizing athletics and failed investments in online universities while being so willing to cut scholarship funding for students at the snap of their fingers. Thank you.
Holly Thomas, followed by Nicholas Bruno.
Suzanne, would you do that again? I don't think anybody could.
Holly Thomas, followed by Nicholas Bruno.
Let me get my mask. Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. My name is Holly Thomas. I'm a PhD student in the Geoscience Department here at the University of Arizona. Fuel Wonder means philanthropy is our fuel. That is the fuel that's going to help us reach beyond into the universe, said President Robbins at a recent fundraising event where the university announced the success of its current fundraising campaign. More than $2.5 billion have been raised in the past 6 years, making them the 6th highest giving years in the university's history. I'm sure these numbers aren't new to you. But the university has also raised out-of-state tuition by $8,000, reported an increase in tuition-paying students, and revenue has increased by over $500 million over the same 6-year period. I am a scientist, I am not a banker, I might be missing something here, but I find it incredible that despite all of the metrics indicating financial success, the administration has plunged us into a financial crisis. One that Robbins, champion of philanthropy, proposes remedying through a series of draconian cuts to faculty and staff and a reduction in student aid. What is glaringly absent in the rhetoric surrounding this crisis is any assumption of responsibility or burden by our so-called leaders. Instead, those of us who had no role and no culpability in this crisis are slated to pay for it with our jobs and with our future. I'm going to read just a few more quotes. At the University of Arizona, we embed the principles of diversity and equity into every Wildcat every day, practicing both inclusion and compassion in every interaction. The 360 initiative made student support a top university priority, and it's become even more crucial in the past year from a fundraising press release. And finally, President Robbins himself, I am a big fan of fair and just culture. Where is this commitment to student support, justice, inclusion, and compassion in the administration's response to this crisis? Rather than propose solutions that involve any sort of reduction in the responsible personnel, their salaries, or even their luxurious benefits packages, the ones who stand to pay are the students, staff, and faculty. How dare you claim to support us? How dare you claim a commitment to justice and inclusion? The campus community is unified, and we are unafraid to bring these choices to light. We are watching, and we are talking, and we demand the university finds a solution that aligns with its purported values. Punish those responsible for this crisis, not those of us who are busy with the pursuit and distribution of knowledge, which is the true purpose of this university. Thank you for hearing me.
Nicholas Bruno, followed by evalesco.
Hello, my name is Nick. I'm a U of A alum, class of 2017, worked in elder care and TUSD preschools, multiple jobs at the same time, and now in hospitality, which surprisingly pays more than both of those sectors. I'm a member of the Tucson Tenants Union and the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Today is a prime example that the capitalist class will stop at nothing to prevent and overturn any possible reforms or challenges to their power and control. When Regent Penley said, do anything to reclaim that $240 million unaccounted for, they wanted to make us bear the costs of their daily corruption. To this, I join the thousands calling to chop from the top, and that we will overcome their efforts to keep us subjugated. The Arizona Board of Regents are personal embodiments of the connections between the imperialist corporations structuring U.S. war economy and dominating our education system at the same time. They boast of their war profiteering as CEOs and board members of other companies and their billionaire ties, taking pride in ravaging the environment and oppressing the global working class. We have so much potential if our brilliance as students, faculty, and staff was put to the service of international solidarity and working class unity. We unite to call an end to all contracts that profit off of Israeli occupation and other military interventions and proxy wars. We, as workers, hold the future for humanity, which looks like research, like at a university such as this, done in service to the social good and not for private profits. Which looks like guaranteed union jobs with full social benefits for all. Which looks like public education campaigns about the importance of efforts to redress systematic exploitation of women, LGBTQ people, black people, immigrants, indigenous, disabled people, and other oppressed nations, which some board members have made a career off of. Looking at you, Tom Horn. The Board of Regents answers us with shrugs, with smirks, pretending or projecting away their part in the destruction of rights and lives of the great majority of people with efforts to infiltrate, undermine, and destroy the public sector. I'm amazed how the people here have borne the weight of the empire's hubris and know that for each of the human rights abuses that y'all are responsible for and complicit in, people are becoming more conscious, more united, and more organizationally militant to find an alternative. Empire means never having to say you're sorry, but we will not be intimidated, and we will not forgive, and we will not forget. We are the majority, and we know that a blow to one of us is a blow to all. We won't be divided or repressed, and we will win. Because liberation is irresistible and irreversible. Thank you.
Evalesco, followed by Phyllis Brskin.
Good afternoon. My name is Evalesco, and I'm a computer science student here at the U of A as a freshman. I'm here to talk about, I'm here to tell you a story from when I was in high school. I was in our code club, and we were given a grant of $7,000 to go to a hackathon at MIT. We were promised that grant 2 months before we were supposed to leave, and this grant would have paid for transportation, food, housing, everything that would have been involved, including computers for low-income students who couldn't afford it. 2 hours before we were supposed to leave, that $7,000 went missing. I think it's astounding that my tuition is nearly $250,000 and somehow 10 times that amount went missing. When that happened at my school, 3 people were fired. But when it happened here, nothing has happened. There is no call to action. It's like when students have a deadline, they procrastinate until the very end to get an assignment done. That feels like what's happening here. It feels like no one is actually taking the time to put in the effort to make things happen. Thank you.
Phyllis Brskin, followed by Miranda Lopez.
I'm giving you all a minute just to make sure you're looking up here, not on phones, as I would for a student. Thank you. I'm Phyllis Brskin with the University Center for Assessment, Teaching, and Technology, but my heart is in the College of Education. I'm speaking on my own behalf, but I'm also speaking on behalf of employees who are planning retirement in the next 3 to 5 years. Because your decisions won't affect us for the next year or two, it will literally affect us for the rest of our lives. As we are here to talk about numbers, specifically numbers that reflect budget miscalculation, I would like to share 4 numbers of my own. In 1977, I began paying into Social Security. I began working to help pay my parents' bills and to save money for college. I was 16, and I've never stopped working since then, so I've been paying into Social Security every year since then. 1989. After finishing my bachelor's and master's degree in special education here at the University of Arizona, I began teaching at the Arizona State School for the Deaf and Blind, and I began paying into the retirement system at that time and have continued to do so every day, every year since then. 2001, I began my work at the University of Arizona, first as adjunct, next as appointed personnel, and now as an associate professor of practice. And the last number, 2024. I have carefully planned for my retirement in May of 2024. I'm going to repeat the numbers. 1977, 1989, 2001. I'm making sure everyone's looking up here again. I know it's a long time to pay attention for 3 minutes, Tom especially. I come from education, let's keep our eyes on it. And 2024. As I plan my retirement, I feel proud, accomplished, and incredibly blessed that I've had the opportunity to do meaningful work, work from my heart, work with good people, many of whom I love dearly. But I didn't do it for free, nor have you. You are floating decisions that will directly collide with my 40 years of teaching in this community and at the university. That collision is not on me. I didn't run the stop sign, but you did. I didn't speed, but you did. And I didn't buy a car I couldn't afford, but you did. You should receive the citation, you should pay the fine, and your car should be repoed. I did my job for 40 years, now you do yours.
Miranda Lopez, followed by Sara Candell.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time today. My name is Miranda Lopez, and I'm the Southern Regional Director for the Arizona Students Association and a graduate student at the U of A. I wanted to share a statement today with you all on behalf of the Arizona Students Association. We echo the concerns of UA students, faculty, and staff who are here today. The financial mismanagement of UA and the continuous prioritization of central administration's narrow financial and political interests above those of the larger campus community have reached a tipping point. We also share concern with other groups here about the rise in right-wing violence seen on our campuses. Students, faculty, and staff should not have to come to campus afraid for their safety. Queer students and students of color should not have to endure the threatening and hostile rhetoric of groups like Turning Point USA. Free speech is one thing, fearing for our lives is another. We have previously spoken to board staff about the ability to put student housing and dining costs on payment plans instead of making payment due all at once at the beginning of the semester. Anything we can do to alleviate the financial burden on our already struggling students is necessary to ensure their futures at our universities. We had the opportunity to speak with Director Arnold about this idea and are excited to see next steps soon. We thank the board and its staff for continuing to meet with us as we push our goals forward. ASA and all of its students are actively lobbying the state legislature for increased funding to higher education in Arizona, and we would appreciate your continued support in these endeavors. Thank you.
Sara Candell, followed by Marcos Esparza.
Hello, members of the Board of Regents. My name is Sara Candell. I am a student at the University of Arizona studying public health and currently serve as the Student Body Administrative Vice President. In my role, I work with several programs and services that are doing the work to support the students you all fail to support yourselves. I am a student who will be in over $20,000 of debt following the completion of my undergraduate degree. My only source of income is through the stipend I receive from student government. An increase in tuition not only means more debt and limitations on my future, but by doing so, you are furthering the existing disparities that you all continue to sow deep within the grounds of Tucson. As you all market As you all market for more students to attend this school, you fail to meet the needs of the students that are already here. You fail to attend to deferred maintenances not meeting the expectations of the Climate Action Plan. You fail to provide more affordable housing, food, and other basic needs. You fail to provide Middle Eastern and North African students their own cultural center. This is considering the fact that Black and Brown students feel connected to the university and excel academically when provided with identity-based engagement, discussions, and spaces, evident by the Black Student Success Report. You fail to recognize students' needs and instead focus on investing the resources you do have on things you deem profitable. That was until it wasn't profitable. Now, because of failure and oversight by the Board of Regents and failure in leadership by President Robbins, you are having to seek out solutions to get us out of this deep hole. So then you look to the students you failed to support to get you out of this mess. What you fail to realize is that the real power lies within the students. Your roles would not exist without our contributions. We have every right to walk in here, demand changes, and see those changes take place. The students at the University of Arizona demand that the Arizona Board of Regents provide protections to faculty and staff to prevent layoffs from this mismanagement of money. We demand there is no tuition or fee increase, that funds are sought out elsewhere that does not come from the pockets of the students. We demand a thorough explanation of our current financial crisis. We demand next steps that allows for student review and feedback. Lastly, the students are not responsible for your misjudgments and poor decision-making skills. You are responsible for your own actions, and we demand that President Robbins stop his own bleed. Thank you.
Marcos Esparza, followed by Kiera Otis.
Hi, my name is Marcos. I'm a graduate researcher in the Optical Sciences Department pursuing my PhD. Along with every other graduate and undergraduate student employee and staff member in this state, we provide the vast majority of the academic work that is done at Arizona universities. However, every semester, graduate students are required to pay an extra fee on top of tuition. For graduate researchers whose work is funded, this often feels like we have to pay in order to keep our positions. For all students, this is often an extra, typically unforeseen cost we have to contend with at the beginning of every semester. This extra cost is also on top of and worsens the current cost of living crisis that many students are experiencing. To make things worse, these fees have increased by more than 25% in the last 5 years. It can be said that a portion of these fees go towards resources such as library resources and information technology that student employees will use in their academic work. However, given that the university appears to be the main beneficiary of this academic work done by students, they should be the ones responsible for providing the resources needed to perform this work. By bundling graduate student fees with tuition, the university can at least allow for students' research funding to pay for these fees in addition to tuition. Better yet would be to remove them entirely. Doing so would remove a major burden that all students face each semester. Thank you.
Kiera Otis, followed by Nicholas Malavari.
Greetings, y'all. My name is Kiera Otis. I am an ASU doctoral candidate, a reproductive health researcher, and a full-spectrum doula. And today I'm here to urge the Board of Regents to join the Palestinian campaign for the academic and social boycott of Israel, a Zionist state. Now let me be clear. I, along with the vast majority of anti-Zionist activists, do not equate Judaism with Zionism. We do not believe all Jewish people are Zionists. We know there are Jewish people of all backgrounds who wish to have peaceful coexistence with people who do not share their faith. I cannot express my gratitude and respect for the many anti-Zionist activists in the streets crying and chanting in our name. And today I'm here to say to ABOR, not with support from our institutions, not with our money. As students and workers of Arizona's public universities, we do not want to support genocide of Palestinians or any other people. While the mainstream media pretends that history starts on October 7th, we know violence started in 1948 with the Nakba. Now let me tell you about the asymmetry. of violence and power in this conflict, so-called conflict. Prior to October 7th, Israelis had 309 fatalities. Palestinians had 6,542. This is from the UN, by the way. Since October 7th, approximately 1,200 Israelis have been killed and at least 11,000 Palestinians. Over 4,000 of the Palestinian dead have been children, since nearly half the population of Gaza is under the age of 18. So this means 1 in every 200 Gazans have been killed by the state of Israel. Among the survivors, there are children, pregnant and postpartum women, elderly people, disabled people, recent amputees, and health workers. And these tragedies are enabled by this board, people on this board who profit from it. I humbly and strongly implore ABOR to join the BDS movement for a free Palestine. The legality of BDS in state institutions in Arizona may be unclear and contested, but the morality is not. The board can take a stance and support BDS policy and urge the state legislature to repeal the anti-BDS law. Thank you. Free Palestine.
Nicholas Malaveri, followed by Ted Downing.
My name is Nick Molinari. I'm a graduate student here at the University of Arizona, and thank you for giving me this time to speak. I would like to begin by quoting B'Tselem, which is Israel's very own state-run human rights organization, and they issued a report in 2021 entitled, "A Regime of Jewish Supremacy from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, This is Apartheid." In this report, B'Tselem writes that, and I quote, "The Israeli regime, which controls all the territory between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea, seeks to advance and cement Jewish supremacy throughout the entire area. To that end, it has divided the area into several units, each with a different set of rights for Palestinians, always inferior to the rights of Jews. As a part of this policy, Palestinians are denied many rights, including the right to self-determination. They also say a slew of legislation, such as the boycott law and the Nakba law, which has limited Israelis' freedom to criticize policies relating to Palestinians throughout the area. Palestinians in the occupied territories face even harsher restrictions. They are not allowed to demonstrate, many associations have been banned, and almost any political statement is considered incitement. These restrictions are assiduously enforced by the military courts, which have imprisoned hundreds of thousands of Palestinians and are a key mechanism upholding the occupation. In East Jerusalem, Israel works to prevent any social, cultural, or political activity associated in any way with the Palestinian Authority." End quote. To borrow a turn of phrase from President Robbins, let's call this what it is, apartheid. Today, this apartheid regime is pursuing its aim of ethnic cleansing and land appropriation through the most indiscriminate and contemptible methods of genocidal violence against Palestinians, and the University of Arizona is not only complicit in this violence, but also deeply implicated through its business contracts with weapons manufacturers such as Raytheon. It is quite evident, after more than a month of unrelenting bloodshed directed towards Palestinians, that the indiscriminate bombardment of Gaza has absolutely nothing to do with bringing hostages back and everything to do with the Zionist aim of permanent extermination and displacement of Palestinians from their lands so that those territories can be appropriated by Israel. Many of the bombs that are being used to butcher Palestinians in their thousands are manufactured right here in Arizona. The millions of displaced peoples marching south in the Gaza Strip are fleeing from our weaponry. Many of them, including children, will doubtlessly carry our shrapnel in their bones and flesh for many years to come as a reminder of our complicity. After Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the University of Arizona divested from all business dealings with Russian companies, including the technology company Yandex, which previously provided the university community with food delivery robots. How can it be that food delivery robots are a step too far, but providing material support to mercilessly provoke more bloodshed in Palestine is business as usual? If the University of Arizona can respond and take action to prevent the suffering of white people, then it can do the same for black and brown people. If the University of Arizona can voice support for Ukrainians, who at the very least have an army to defend them, then it should also voice support for displaced and murdered Palestinians who have no means of protection. Thus far, university leadership has failed us, and most of all, they have failed Palestinians who are impacted by decisions made right here. Humanitarian aid workers report a special acronym unique to the current war in Gaza. WCNSF, Wounded Child, No Surviving Family. Every second that this board refuses to act contributes to the blood being spilled and contributes to a stain on the moral character of this university, which will remain in perpetuity. For these same reasons, it is past time to make all of the university's business dealings and contracts transparent and open to the public, and to divest from all those companies that provide, and businesses who provide material support to the ongoing program of apartheid and ethnic cleansing in Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. Thank you.
Downing, followed by Hypatia M.
Thank you. I'm Ted Downing. I'm not speaking as a 53-year member of the faculty here. I'm speaking as a former state legislator, served with Tom and others here. And hopefully, first, I want to thank all of you for your service. These are not easy times to be on boards or presidents of universities, and it's not easy time to be a student either, if you've been hearing today. I didn't come with a prepared mark. I'm just going to say something about the political consequences of what we're seeing, because I think we're moving into the preconditions for something that the board will find interesting. Let's put it that way. The preconditions are that the public is awaking. There's an expression, I love Dune, the movie, and the sleeper has awoken. And I think awaken, and excuse me, and that's what's happening now. The sleepers, all these students back here and all the people affected, they have parents. Their parents are voters. They have all kinds of connections in this state, and the state's starting to ask a lot of questions. I'm getting called by former constituents who I thought didn't even know I existed anymore. The questions are coming about financial irregularities, naturally. Businesses are saying they keep track of their daily cash. How did the board miss it? Especially when you've got a representative who sits here in the representative in the president's office who's supposed to be reporting to you. They're asking questions about the hiring of over almost 3,000 people as state employees. Actually, they were supposedly acquired as part of taking over a company. This has never happened in the history of the University of Arizona. Never has it taken over another whole company, including its employees. A lot of people here like jobs in this town. A lot of people like an opportunity to compete for those jobs. They didn't have the opportunity. They're hearing questions about why the board keeps meeting in executive sessions. And if I did metrics on it, the board has shifted. I've been here for a long time. The board has shifted to a primarily metrics. They're asking the main question. They're asking, I get asked, how long are you in for? I tell them 8 years. Can you be recalled? No. You can't be recalled. Do you make any money? I, of course, tell them you don't, which is they want to know. But those are the kind of questions that are raising questions. And then the big one is the consequences of all this are political. This is a very charged time we're in. And one of the charged ways, how do we get accountability? We get accountability through elections. So I'm getting a question is, should the Board of Regents in the state of Arizona be elected? And that can be decided by initiative or referendum. And I think that level of accountability is the only one in a week. It's a democracy. That's the only level we can come to. Maybe it's time for the Board of Regents of the state of Arizona to be elected. Thank you.
Hypatia M., followed by Paul Shelton.
I'm Hypatia Medavia. I am a grad student in geology at ASU, and I will be reading our petition to ban Turning Point from campus. Woo! On April 11th, 2023, Dr. Harris Kornstein, Assistant Professor of Public and Applied Humanities at UA, was harassed by two men outside of a classroom building following class. They filmed Dr. Kornstein non-consensually and was asked offensive, sexually explicit, anti-LGBTQ questions. Then again, on Wednesday, October 11th, Dr. David Boyles, an instructor at the ASU English Department was harassed following the same playbook by the same team who filmed, followed, aggressively questioned, and then physically attacked Dr. Boyles. In both cases, the attackers were affiliates of Turning Point USA who openly declared that their harassment of Kornstein and Boyles was motivated by anti-LGBTQ sentiment. Despite attempts by the ASU student organization TPUSA to distance themselves from the national organization, they are clearly connected. At ASU's TPUSA chapter-hosted event on September 27th on the Tempe campus, those associated with the group engaged in blatant sexual harassment of queer and trans students, including me. Such harassment and attacks are completely unacceptable and cannot be tolerated. We must pursue every avenue to ensure that they do not happen again. In his clear and unequivocal statement condemning TPUSA's actions as anti-democratic, anti-free speech, and completely contrary to the spirit of the university scholarship, teaching, and community, President Crow suggested that ASU will do all we can to end the bullying and intimidation and reduce threats against the members of the ASU community. UA President Robbins must do the same for the UA community. We call on both universities to act immediately by banning Turning Point USA from all our campuses and unregistering its affiliated student organizations. ASU Student Organization Club Handbook, the Associated Students of the University of Arizona, and the ABOR Student Code of Conduct all clearly indicate that officers or leaders of a student organization may be held collectively and or individually responsible when such violations are committed by persons associated with the organization who have received consent or encouragement from the organization's officers or leaders, or if those officers or leaders knew or should have known that such violations were being or would have been committed. These violations are endangering, threatening, or causing physical harm to any member of the university community and engaging in discriminatory activities, including harassment, as prohibited by applicable law or university policy. You know I can see you, right? Is the danger that I face every day boring you? Look at me. Thank you. While we are committed to the principles of free speech, we must be clear that when an organization violates the rights and physical safety of our community members, it forfeits its rights to university resources. Our universities cannot claim to uphold an environment that is safe and welcoming for all if they officially recognize and register student groups that engage in violence and harassment against our communities. We stand together against violence and hate. We stand together in solidarity with Dr. Kornstein and Dr. Boyles. We stand together committed to carrying out actions that will ensure our university and our campuses are safe and inclusive for students, staff, and faculty so that an attack like this will never happen again. We challenge President Crow, President Robbins, and our university administrations to do the same. I will now deliver this petition with all 700 signatures to you. You have no excuses.
Paul Shelton, followed by Julie Buffkin.
Board of Regents, as a punctuation point to that speech, I would also like to address the recent attack on the ASU professor. If a person openly takes credit for attacking another person, shouldn't there be some action taken against them? Would the courts bring them in for a stern talking to and that's it? And if that much is true of a person, why not also an organization? Dr. Crow's statement after the incidents were excellent, but actions speak louder than words. And a lack of actions also speaks louder than words. And I fear that to the ears of Turning Point USA and its affiliates, the message currently may be a little bit too permissive. Words in the face of action are insufficient. If Turning Point USA has upgraded their tactics from simple verbal harassment to actual action and violence, then I would propose a similar escalation. I ask that ABOR answers action with action, not violence, excuse me, public speaking. Thank you.
Julie Buffkin, followed by Samuel N.
Thank you for listening to me today. My name is Julie Buffkin. I'm an online student at ASU, a graduate student studying clinical research management and science of healthcare delivery. It really started because of pediatric vaccine misinformation, and I wanted to be an informed person in this world. I'm here to speak out against Turning Point USA. They came after my friend, David, who also hosts Drag Story Hour AZ, where I can take my son and his friends to listen to engaging storytellers read stories of inclusivity with really beautiful themes and keep him compelled. I also work full-time at a child language and literacy lab, so I know the value of exposing our kids to educational resources that are diverse and represent differing perspectives. Earlier this year, we had to leave a drag story hour because there was a bomb threat. The same way that David Boyles was followed, stalked to his car, attacked, and then later the Turning Point organization at ASU denied responsibility for it. That's unacceptable. That's not a lesson we want to teach our kids. Thanks. I'm the proud product of higher education. I do believe that education sets us free, and that's something that I think is important that we teach to the next generation. I've heard a lot of painful statements today. I've heard a lot of angry voices. I think we can do better. I hope we can do better. Last thing, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Crow, for sending an email to our entire university in response to it. It was meaningful for me personally and my friend David. Last thing I'll say, consistent with our ASU charter, where we define ourselves by whom we include and how they succeed, Turning Point USA has no business on our campus. Thank you for your time.
Samuel N., followed by Javier Mendoza.
My name is Samuel Denjet Jr. I use he, they pronouns, and I do not need the tongues of colonizers to honor my last name. I, as a queer student and as a black student, am sickened by the continuous inaction at the hands of ASU administration and specifically President Crow. Yes, I'm looking at you. Don't look away. I, as a queer student, have seen you constantly defer and deflect in regards to the safety of queer students on campus and all marginalized identities. You and the administration claim that all of campus is inclusive and that we don't need specific enclaves. Whereas constantly, especially as a student representative, I have many marginalized students constantly come up to me, telling me constantly that they are unsafe on campus, that they have been threatened, they have been followed, they have been threatened with physical assault even. This is unacceptable. If you really wish to abide by the ASU charter defined by who we include and not by who we exclude, you should not be including people that threaten your students. We are the people that, after all, that the reason that you people sit in these seats. We write your paychecks. Do better. All power to the people.
Javier Mendoza, followed by Alysa Sanchez.
Good afternoon. I will be speaking on behalf of UCW and the Staff Caucus. On Labor Day weekend of 2022, UC Arizona launched a $25 by 2025 campaign to hold President Robbins and President Crow accountable for the goals they profess to uphold, including the ASU Charter and the UA Grand Challenge. The ASU Charter requires the university to support the health of the communities it serves, and this goes hand in hand with the University of Arizona's mission to continuously improve and innovate. We cannot solve grand challenges or build our healthy communities unless our basic needs are met. The purpose of our campaign and petition is to draw attention to the many staff members, both hourly and salaried, who currently do not have fair, livable, and dignified wages. Across our communities, we have seen how the housing market, gas prices, and food expenses have increased. Inflation is over 10% in Arizona, outpacing the national average, and workers' wages are not increasing to meet the cost of living in the area. Our staff members struggle to pay rent, feed our families, and live a dignified life. At this time, our demands have not been met. The Arizona Board of Regents has ignored the issue of the staff at our universities for far too long. We, the Staff Caucus of the United Campus Workers of Arizona, see ABOR's repeated dismissal of our demands as a testament to the indifference of university leadership. It is your job to ensure dignified jobs and fair wages. UCW-AZ believes that all workers must be paid thriving wages in Arizona. We, the staff at ASU and U Arizona, organized under United Campus Workers of Arizona, recognize that only by our own means and our own struggle we will achieve our goals of wages and job conditions worthy of human beings. We call upon students, faculty members, and staff of all colleges and campus to organize and unite under the union. Do a better job.
Alysa Sanchez, followed by Dylan Kreitz.
Hello, Arizona Board of Regents. My name is Alysa Sanchez. I use as, she, her pronouns, and I am the current and first Latina student body president in the University of Arizona history, COO and co-founder of the Aspiring Latino Lawyers nonprofit and undergrad studying political science. Today, I stand before you to discuss a matter of utmost importance, the University of Arizona's mismanagement crisis. In recent weeks, revelations about the university's financial health have raised serious concern among students, faculty, and broader community. President Robert C. Robbins and CFO Lisa Rulney recently disclosed a fragile financial situation, detailing $240 million in budgeting mistakes. The proposed solution in drastic cuts in wages, salaries, and workforce raises questions about accountability, especially when it seems that these cuts are targeted at those who are not even responsible for these financial missteps. Amidst these considerations, it's essential to recognize the broader impact on our student body. Financial stress significantly affects Black, brown, and queer student success. And with recent data provided by the Black Student Success Study, the data highlights disparities by Black students that are met with financial concern. 41.6% of Black respondents neglected their academic work, as opposed to 36.1% of all University of Arizona students when met with financial concern. 14.2% transferred to a different school, as opposed to 10.5% of all U of A students when met with financial concern. 34.2% and 51.95% change post-grad plans, and this is when met with financial concern. These statistics underscore the disproportionate burden of financial concerns on specific student groups, and as we address budgetary challenges, let's prioritize investing in our students, especially those who are disproportionately affected by your decision, and especially the students that create and publish the research our university prides itself so much on. The acquisition of Ashford University, now UAGC, has become a financial saga. UAGC's underperformance, coupled with increasing operating costs, underscores risk associated with such ventures. Additionally, the costly construction projects, including the Applied Research Building and Grand Challenges Building, contribute to this financial strain. And a closer look at the budget reveals significant bloat from salaries, bonuses, and executive hiring. How is a team of people able to make a $240 million mistake and they are still employed? Swift action and accountability should have already been made. Further, the financial burden of Arizona athletics, coupled with mismanagement of assets, these financial implications, investigations, and settlements, and necessary safety measures are substantial. So in conclusion, I am tired of using stats and statistics to explain that I am one of many students at the University of Arizona facing critical circumstances, and the decisions made in response to this crisis will shape the future of not only the institution, but those that come here. The proposed cuts disproportionately impact those who are not responsible for this mismanagement. And I believe the students at the University of Arizona are deserving of leaders who choose to invest in students more than themselves. I hope our president, CFO, and administration genuinely changes and takes accountability for their actions and mistakes they've made against students. Thank you.
Dylan Kreitz, followed by Megan Wang.
Good evening. My name is Dylan Kreitz. I'm a senator representing the College of Fine Arts. Now, my name might be familiar to some of you if you have anything to do with Texas. My dad's a dean there, and so I can say that I've grown up around you sorts my whole life. And I really do want to say that you guys aren't good at your job. I know that as a student of good administration. I've seen what it does, and I've seen how long and hard people like my father work. Hours and hours. And so that's why when I became senator, I decided to spend more than 20 hours a week just on campus, talking to students, doing things, volunteering at the pantry. How many hours a week do you guys spend on campus? I really want to know that. Is it more than 10? I don't think it is, because me personally, I spend close to 50 on campus. That doesn't include my part-time job that I have elsewhere. As part of my job as a senator, I'm on the Board of Appropriations. We were given $200,000 to disperse to 500 clubs this year. For this upcoming semester, we're going to have about $50,000 because we're running out of money. Because $200,000 was given to us as an amount 20 years ago and it hasn't been raised since. Isn't that crazy? That the group representing elected by students is given 1/10 of what you lost. Are you kidding? If I was given $1 million to give to students, careers could be made, future donations for you, money for you. It's one thing to be evil, it's another thing to be evil and stupid. And I can see you're not paying attention. That's fine. It's proving my point. I mean, I've just been looking at you all, and it's... Look at your clothes. How much did they cost? I mean, I see a lot of silk. Silk's expensive, and I bet it was handmade. I bet it was made in Italy or something like that. Love Italy. But yeah, why don't we take a look at where the money is going? Why don't we get an accountant in there? Maybe someone elected, maybe someone who cares about students. And why don't we cut funds? Because we're operating on a shoestring budget. ASUA, if you fully defunded us, we're the student government and we wouldn't be able, like, that wouldn't cover it. But what about the buildings that cost $99 million? What about the furloughs from 2021, $43 million? We can see where your concerns lie, and it's disgusting. And I know you're still going to vote to do the worst thing possible because it benefits you, and that's sad. Thank you.
Megan Wang, followed by Peter NorQuest.
I would just like to make a connection to my name, or correction to my name. I'm sorry if I had written it wrong. It's Megan Wong. Arizona Board of Regents, Administration of the University of Arizona. My name is Megan Wong, and I'm a senior at the University of Arizona studying pharmacy. I work as a community pharmacy technician, and I serve as the senator for the University of Arizona, Associate Students of the University of Arizona. Students, faculty, staff, family alike are feeling betrayed by our administrators and the Arizona Board of Regents. The countless money, time, dedication that people around the United States and even the world have put into this university, it feels like it's gone. There is no benefit for us at this point anymore. It feels like it's been thrown away by this mismanagement and overspending. $240 million gone. I do not trust the university with my well-being anymore. The administration has made it loud and clear that they do not care about us. And with recent events and news that have revealed plans of merit scholarship cuts, faculty and staff cuts, and monopolization of out-of-state students, when exactly did you know about your mistake within the modeling budget? We, the students, faculty, staff, and families should not be paying for your mistakes. We should not be paying for the administration's mistakes, ABOR's mistakes, or the government's mistakes, because that's what we've been doing for however many years this university has been funded. We asked for transparency, but now we are demanding answers. We demand accountability. We demand that President Robbins and his staff to be held responsible for his mistakes. Right now, you may be available to avoid responsibility. And you may not think this is a big financial crisis or any sort of big deal because you have never been put in that position. There will be accountability. There will be. Because unlike you, I serve to help others, and that's what I will always stand for what's right. Thank you for listening.
Peter NorQuest, followed by Michelle Ludwig.
All right, good afternoon, Board of Regents. My name is Peter NorQuest, and I'm a visiting scholar here at the University of Arizona. I'd like to thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak this afternoon, and I'm here personally to address the importance of excluding diversity, equity, and inclusion policies from state university practices. And a few people have spoken on this, and I hope that if they have contrary points of view, they'll be willing to listen to a difference in opinion on this. In my view, the core problem with DEI is that it externalizes all criteria by which a member of the university community is to be accepted and fails to recognize the equally, if not more important, matrix of internal qualities which lie at the core of the personality. First, diversity is focused on immutable characteristics like race, gender, and sexual orientation. However, it has the emergent effect of forcing homogeneity of ideology and thought. This should be anathema to an institution of higher learning which is meant to cultivate critical thinking skills and cultivate appreciation for true diversity in culture, philosophy, and values, insofar as they do not promote aggression against a group or individual. Equity is focused on outcomes. It fails to recognize the inherent differences in talent, skills, and motivation, which are very individualized. Different people desire various outcomes, and not everyone will be satisfied with the same outcomes. They resent having an outcome dictated to them by an anonymous outside body who has no knowledge of them as unique individuals, of their individual histories, or of their unique aspirations. And finally, inclusion is a fuzzy term which assumes that every individual wishes to be organized into a monolithic collective. The values and attributes of this collective are by definition dictated by an outside group with its own inherent prejudices and ideological framework. It is therefore actually exclusive of any group or individual which does not share the same worldview. The covert message, in other words, is that you will be included as long as, but only if, you agree with the collective. The actual net effect of these three programs is therefore to foster division and resentment while stifling free expression, all of which are deleterious to the university environment. I therefore request that you make every effort to exclude DEI from your policy-making process. Thank you for your time.
Our final speaker, Michelle Ludwig.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you here today. My name is Michelle Ludwig. I was actually born in Tucson, and so it's no surprise that the University of Arizona is my alma mater. My daughter chose to be a Sun Devil, so we do have that division in the house. However, it's only during sports, okay? I loved my entire college experience here on campus. But I'm afraid now with today, what I see appearing before me here on campus, my nephew and nieces who are getting ready to decide what to do with their future are not really looking at the universities in Arizona. And myself as a parent, do I want to spend the money here? I don't know. We need to rethink this. My concern here is DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. The trainings that you are providing here are actually deterring what you are trying to achieve. And so I ask you to please reconsider these things. Right now, it disturbs me, and I'm speaking to the students right now, it disturbs me what I'm seeing here in the room. What happened to free speech? What happened to, I enjoyed a good bantering here on college campus and learning from one another, from our diversity. I also spent 10 years overseas during my schooling, of which I enjoyed all the different cultures and the ethnicities. But what happened to individuality? Why are we trying to make everybody become something other than they're not? Thank you. Well, if you could see, would you like to go to a country and demand that you make changes on their college campus and their environment of what is already existing? What happened to what happened to listening to others and learning from that and deciding for ourselves? Why are we letting the university or a group of students make these decisions for us? I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Suzanne, and thank you for all of those who spoke for your powerful and impactful comments. Very helpful for us to hear from you, and I greatly appreciate both your respect of each other as speakers and the time limits in order for us to hear from all of you. So thank you for that.